Hi, welcome to Yard GrowingSA. In today's video, I'll be showing you 21 vegetables you can start in November. Let's get to it. Carrots like to be buried a half a centimeter deep. They'll take 10 to 21 days to germinate and they'll be ready to harvest in 70 to 90 days. But as you can see over here, a lot of carrots is missing here and in here because there was a caterpillar in here and was eating up most of the carrots. As you can see, leaves are all missing. The ones that have now leaves is recovering from that, so the new leaves is coming. So this is definitely not going to be 70 to 90 days. This is going to be about 120 to 150 days, but they are recovering quite nice also, and that's why I had to start 3 new buckets with carrots in anyway, so it's fine. I'm just keeping them moist and wet until they start germinating, and then the cardboards can come out. Chilies like to be buried half a centimeter to a centimeter deep. They will take 10 to 20 days to germinate and they'll be ready to harvest in 90 to 121 days, but also depending on what type of chili you're growing. So all of these trees over here was the ones I pruned them down a few videos ago. I'll link that up here. Yeah, so I pruned them all down like that. Even worse, they had no leaves, and now this is how they're looking. But as you can see, some is doing better than others, and this one is already producing chilies. So bell pepper like to be a centimeter deep. They will take 10 to 20 days to germinate and they'll be ready to harvest in 90 to 120 days. Beetroot, so in each pod there is about 3 to 4 seeds. So when you plant them, 3 to 4 plants will germinate, and they like to be buried 1 to 2 centimeters deep. They take 7 to 14 days to germinate and they'll be ready to harvest in 60 to 80 days. But this one is going to take longer because I had to transplant them while they were already growing and they were already a bulb. But I will link that video also up over here, and then you can see how I transplanted them. And with root crops, normally they say you want to directly sow them and not mess around with them like with carrots, but with beets it really doesn't matter. The stuff is really strong, and also if you don't like the beets, you can also use the leaves as Swiss chard. Mealies or corn like to be buried 2 to 4 centimeters deep, and they will take 7 to 10 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 90 to 120 days. And the harvesting time will start once the corn forms on the plant. Then you count the 90 days from that day onwards. But I'll keep up to date once this germinate, and yeah, as time go on, I'll keep up to date with all the stuff going on here with the plants. And with corn, you want to directly sow. Unfortunately, I don't have enough space for that, so I'm going to be planting them in trays and then I will transplant them. But it is much better to get them directly into the ground. Watermelon. So watermelon like to be buried 2 to 3 centimeters deep and they were ready to germinate in 10 to 14 days, and you can harvest them in 11 to 17 weeks. Runner beans like to be buried 2 to 3 centimeters deep, and when you plant in them, make sure this side, and you see where the groove is in, is facing up. They will take 5 to 10 days to germinate and they'll be ready to harvest in 50 to 70 days, and the 50 to 70 days counts from when the beans true leaves form. Kale like to be buried 1 centimeter down. They will take 7 to 14 days to germinate and they'll be ready to harvest in 60 to 90 days. But obviously once they hit about like 10 centimeters, you can just take off the leaves you need, and then you leave the center ones and they will continuously grow. Push beans like to be buried 2 to 3 centimeters deep, and when you plant them, you see the groove over here or the speck on top over here. That's how you want to bury them. they're going to take 7 to 10 days to germinate. I just realized now they look almost like Tic Tacs. Okay, let me pick this up. But anyways, they're going to take 50 to 60 days to harvest. And the harvest counts from when the true leaves form. So once this germinate, they're going to have their normal leaves. And when the true leaves, you count from that day onwards until day 50. So brinjals or eggplants like to be buried half a centimeter to a centimeter deep. They will take 7 to 14 days to germinate and they will be ready to harvest in 100 to 120 days. And when you count that 100 to 120 days is once the true leaves form. So over here you can see they starting. So about a week or so I will be starting to count from that day onwards. Potatoes like to be buried 5 to 10 centimeters deep. And you can see on this one, this was a whole potato. So when you see the nodes, I've cut the potatoes so that this can dry out. So now I can plant them. And it's going to take them 14 to 21 days to germinate. And they'll be ready to harvest in 90 to 120 days. And also what you can do if your potatoes isn't growing any nodes, once you peel your potatoes that you're going to eat, just throw that in the ground. In about like a month or so, they will start germinating also. You don't always need to have seed potatoes. You can just take the potatoes you have at home what you peeled, and there you go. But obviously it's gonna take much longer than potatoes that have the nodes on it already. Radish like to be buried 1 centimeter deep, and this one that I have over here is called white icicles. But all radishes will take about 5 to 10 days to germinate and they'll be ready to harvest in 30 to 50 days. But I'm not planting any radish this time. I'm going to plant it maybe in the middle of November. I don't need any right now. With radish you want to directly sow them. You do not want to transplant them. They do just as bad as carrots. Spring onions like to be buried a centimeter deep. They'll take 7 to 14 days to germinate and they'll be ready to harvest in 60 to 80 days. But obviously you can eat them at any stage you like, but this will go well on a potato salad or something like that. Swiss chard like to be buried 1 to 2 centimeters deep. They'll take 7 to 14 days to germinate and they'll be ready to harvest in 60 to 80 days. Or you can also do like with any leafy greens. Take the outer leaves and let the center leaves stay and they will continuously grow while you harvest around. You want to soak them overnight or for 24 hours before you plant them. And inside each of this pot is about 2 to 4 seeds. Cucumbers like to be buried 1 to 2 centimeters deep. They'll take 5 to 15 days to germinate and they'll be ready to harvest in 50 to 70 days, and that is once the flower forms on the bush. I'm going to be planting 2 in each of this here. And also what you can do, I'm going to be planting 18 of this, but if you have time, you see the smaller side, you can just take a scissor and cut the slit over there, so water can also get into there to make the seeds swell up bigger and then it maybe germinate faster. Sweet melon like to be buried 2 to 3 centimeters deep. They'll take 7 to 14 days to germinate. And they'll be ready to harvest in 80 to 100 days. And that 80 to 100 days counts once the fruit forms on the bush. And the seeds is from the previous one I grew. And if you check my post, you can see there's a picture of it. Rocket like to be buried a half a centimeter deep. They'll take 5 to 10 days to germinate and they'll be ready to harvest in 30 to 50 days. I thought I had more seeds, that's why I filled up the 6th tray, but unfortunately this is all I got. But I do have the others in front that is going now to seed, so I'll just wait till that's ready and I'll plant them in the rest of here. Tomatoes like to be buried half a centimeter to a centimeter deep. They'll take 5 to 10 days to germinate and they'll be ready to harvest in 70 to 90 days. Celery like to be buried a half a centimeter. They'll take 14 to 21 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 100 to 120 days. Okra likes to be buried 1 centimeter deep. They'll take 10 to 14 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 50 to 60 days. And okra likes to be directly sown, but I don't have space at the moment, so I like to sow them in trays first. Because at the moment I do not have space for them, so that's just how it have to be for now. So thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to help the channel out, you can comment down below on this video. You can leave a like on the video, share the video. You can follow me on Instagram. You can donate with super thanks or becoming a member. And I do appreciate every one of you. Thank you. Backyard out.